Hey, thank you very much, Olivia.
Okay, thank you, Godfrey. Are we good to go?
Yes,
Okay. Must I wait 2 minutes or can I start?
we can start.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Godfrey. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for today's event titled CESA Engineering and Technology Innovation Webinar, AI and Technological Advancements. In this webinar, we will explore the future of engineering with a focus on AI, BIM, and broader technological and innovation advancements. We're excited to have a remarkable lineup of speakers who are passionate about their fields and eager to share their insights with you. So before we dive into today's agenda, let me introduce myself. So my name is Olivia Sugdio, and I will be your facilitator for this CESA Engineering and Technology Innovation webinar. So a bit about myself. I'm a structural engineer specializing in the execution of engineering projects with expertise in structural steel, reinforcement concrete infrastructure, and a bit of project management. I graduated from UKZN in 2018 with a BSc in civil engineering, and I have 5 years of industry experience. One of my highlights was I received the Steel Award for Top Young Achiever by the South African Institution of Steel Construction in 2018, and I currently work at MPA Mott in our Cape Town office. So let's move on to today's program. We have a wide variety of speakers today who will be presenting. We will start off by the opening remarks by Dr. Gift Mpefu. Then we would move on to the influence of AI and technological advancements on engineers, the economy, and society by Divesh Motilal. Then we're going to move on to technology and innovation at ESCOM, navigating through the energy transition, presented by Prudence Madiba. And then this demystifying BMI through the project and asset cycle by Richard Matchett. So our first speaker would be Dr. Gift Mpefu, who will deliver the opening remarks. So Dr. Gift Mpefu is the founder and managing director of a multidisciplinary engineering consulting firm, Meditech Engineers. He's a registered professional engineer with the Engineering Council of South Africa, a member of South African Institution of Electrical Engineers, South African Systems Dynamics Chapter, and the International Council of System Engineering. Dr. Mpefu is a board member of the Consulting Engineers of South Africa and an intermediate past chairperson of the Gauteng Province branch of CESA. He also served on boards of a multinational corporate and in-state owned entity in the Republic of South Africa. He holds a BSc in electrical engineering from UKZN, former UDW, a certificate course in wireless telephone from continuing education at the University of Pretoria, master's in engineering management from the University of Pretoria's Graduate School of Technology Management, a postgraduate diploma in healthcare technology management from the University of Cape Town, a doctor of philosophy, PhD in engineering management from the Graduate School of Engineering Management at the University of Johannesburg. He is a research fellow in the Department of Electrical Engineering, School of Engineering, College of Science, Engineering and Technology at the University of South Africa. So Dr. Mpefu, it's over to you.
Thank you. May I share my screen, please?
Yes, you may.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So thank you, Program Director, for the opportunity to share my opening remarks in this webinar. I know it's been a very, very busy year for most of us, but I'm glad to see most of us attending this particular session. We've had a number of sessions this year, but this is really our last one for the year. And we hope that it would really give people the information that they really need. And of course, CESA, Consulting Engineers South Africa, obviously it's an association of consulting engineers. We have a number of committees which focus at a number of issues, topics. So this specific one, the Technology and Engineering Innovation Forum, our focus is on basically technology and innovation. So that is our mandate, to really facilitate knowledge exchange around the issues of technology and innovation. So thank you very much for registering and attending this session. All right. So, of course, I must extend my greetings to the ladies and gentlemen who are here today. And let me officially welcome you to this webinar. And of course, this webinar is nothing but a platform for us to explore the influence of artificial intelligence and technological advancements on engineers, the economy, and society. And of course, artificial intelligence is significant. And we are saying it is significant because it is a driving force behind innovation and efficiency. So we want to align innovation and efficiency. As engineers, we play a vital role in the design and the build of our future. When you look at all the infrastructure around us, it's really dependent on us. It's dependent on our competencies and our abilities and the innovation that we come up with. That is what will define the future of our nation. So of course, our work influences a number of industries, the economy, and the societal norms. So this webinar is a collaborative space to shape the future of engineering. And we want to focus on engineering. And of course, we know that AI is not only, concerned with engineering. We see a number of case studies where AI could be applied in a number of different sectors, but our focus is in the engineering space. So in the presentations that we're going to see today, we are going to hear from fantastic speakers who are very, very great, leaders, in the engineering space. We are going to be hearing from ESCOM, and that presentation is going to be led by Prudence Madiba. And from the city of Johannesburg, we'll have Divesh Motilal. And from Zutari, we are going to hear from Richard Merchant. And at the end, we will finish off with a very, very interesting Q&A session, which will hopefully explore some new ideas and insights. So there are a number of opportunities from the innovations that we have seen or that we continue to see. The opportunities include harnessing artificial intelligence to solve complex problems and enhance inclusivity. We want to make sure that we take advantages of the opportunities that are there to address societal challenges with innovation and equity. We definitely want to collaborate to shape a vision where technology empowers humanity. So I want to invite you to engage actively in the discussions, challenge some of the assumptions, and commit to leveraging technology for the betterment of all. But let's pause for a second and ask ourselves a question. The presentation that I've just shared with you, is it AI generated or not? And of course, it is AI generated. All that I had to do was to contextualize my requirement with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one good example of generative artificial intelligence. It did everything for me. So all I had to do was ask ChatGPT to basically, as you can see in blue here, I asked ChatGPT, I gave it a clear instruction to say, please write me a speech, that could be used as a way of opening a webinar of this particular fashion. And the contextualization part, had to do with the program of the day. So I asked ChatGPT, I was very clear in terms of my request, and I provided the sample program of the day. And with that, ChatGPT gave me some fantastic results. As you can see, this beautifully written speech, I asked specifically for a 5-minute speech in textual format. So this is what it gave me, but it didn't stop there. I asked ChatGPT to convert, the text format of the speech into a PowerPoint version, which is what we have actually seen. And this is exactly the result of the AI application that we actually used. So I must thank ChatGPT for making my life easier for today. So it was not really that difficult for me to put together, my opening remarks. But most importantly, we need to appreciate the power of artificial intelligence. And I must say, this is my only real presentation. I hope that you're going to enjoy the webinar, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gift, for those opening remarks. We can move forward with today's webinar. Just going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Sharing. Okay. So our next speaker is Divesh Motilal, who will present on the influence of AI and technological advancements on engineers, the economy, and society. So Divesh Motilal is an experienced engineer and mentor with over 20 years in both government and private sector, including NPOs. For the past decade, he has mentored entrepreneurs in climate change innovations. He holds degrees in electrical engineering, honors from the University of Cape Town, technology management, a master's from the University of Pretoria, mechanical engineering master's from the University of Stellenbosch, and AI master's from the University of Johannesburg. Divesh is well traveled, having attended training in Spain, Dubai, China, Germany, India, Ivory Coast, and the US. He is a project management professional, certified energy management professional, PhD candidate, and certified director. He completed the Obama Leadership Training in Sustainable Development. His expertise spans smart cities, construction, telecommunications, energy, software development, and transport. He has served on advisory boards, including at the University of Johannesburg, and is a founder and managing director of P3 Direct, a consultancy in Pretoria. So over to you, Divesh.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Let me just load my presentation.
Okay.
Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Thank you very
Visible.
much.
No problem.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues and fellow engineers. Today I invite you to explore the transformative landscape of our industry, driven by the integration of artificial intelligence, building information modeling, and digital twins. Today's topic is, as Olivia mentioned, the influence of AI and technological advancements on engineers, the economy, and society. And as the opening remark had mentioned, technology is all-encompassing and is integrated with the various other elements within our ecosystems. As we delve into this topic, I want to pose a thought-provoking question. What if we could predict construction challenges before they happen? And I'm not just talking about identifying our risks and managing that matrix. Being able to know what might actually happen and how will that influence our projects. This question encapsulates the essence of our discussion today. How these technologies are not merely trends, but fundamental shifts in project delivery. And that's within a $1.4 trillion global construction market, which is going through a phase of digital transformation. So when we look at the overview in terms of digital technologies within the construction space, did you know that construction is one of the least digitized industries globally? So we are playing catch up. Traditional approaches are increasingly unsustainable in our complex, resource-constrained environments. We stand at a pivotal juncture where digital technologies can revolutionize how we design, construct, and manage our built environment. Digital technologies are not just a trend, but they're a fundamental shift in project delivery. Let me take you through a journey of how artificial intelligence, building information modeling, and digital twins are not just changing our world, they're redefining what's possible. The AI revolution, let's begin with AI. We've already had a small taste of it from the opening remarks, but let's delve a little bit deeper and focus in on the built environment. Imagine generating 500 design iterations in the time it used to take us to just create 5. That's not just science fiction. That's happening right now with AI-powered generative design. By leveraging historical project data, site-specific constraints, and performance metrics, AI enables us to optimize designs for thermal efficiency, structural integrity, and even the utilization of our materials. Moreover, AI's predictive analytics capabilities can empower us to proactively manage project risks with an impressive 78% accuracy. These figures that I'm quoting comes from some of the research that we've been looking at, not only in a global context, but also within the South African context in the built environment. And by analyzing historical data alongside real-time inputs such as weather forecasts, geospatial information, we can identify potential risks that can materialize even before the project is even implemented. And this can enable us to effectively mitigate or develop mitigation strategies. When we focus in on energy management and sustainability, in an area where sustainability is paramount, AI-driven systems provide granular insights into energy consumption patterns. They help us identify inefficiencies and implement targeted strategies to minimize our waste. For example, optimizing heat and cooling systems can lead to substantial reductions in energy use. Furthermore, AI can facilitate the integration of renewable energy sources into our projects, contributing significantly to greener construction practices and even lower carbon footprints, an aspect which is of paramount importance in our built environment. One of the technologies that we are putting emphasis on is that of the building information modeling, or better known as BIM. We've discovered that this object-based modeling can reduce spatial coordination errors up to 40%. Imagine catching potential conflicts between structural systems, mechanical installations, and electrical networks, even before a single piece of metal is bent or even a single foundation has been poured. But it's not more than just avoiding mistakes. It's about sustainability. We can now calculate precise carbon footprints, simulate energy performance, and optimize material efficiency, all before breaking ground. one of the more advanced technologies, which we also not only looking in the built environment, but in other sectors of life, is that of digital twinning. And I wanted to just touch on advanced asset management. Digital twins are where science fiction meets reality. These virtual replicas of physical assets offer unprecedented opportunities for real-time monitoring and management. By integrating data from sensors and IoT devices, digital twins enable us to track project performance on a continuous basis. This capability is essential for detecting deviations from planned outcomes and forecasting potential challenges that a project might face. A very good example of digital twin and what it's capable of is a project called Virtual Singapore. And I do have a video later on which we could just have a snapshot view of what Virtual Singapore entails. But what it serves as a benchmark for urban planning by allowing city planners to test scenarios, predict outcomes in a real-time basis, help you with your decision making in a very complex, evolving built environment space and a complex and challenged service delivery environment. However, with all the benefits that are clear, the adoption of digital twins is still an ascent in our industry due to the technological complexities and the need for standardized data formats. We have predictive maintenance frameworks, which we could also lean into. Machine learning algorithms, which can be used to predict component failure, optimize your maintenance windows, and of course, develop strategies to allocate your resources in the best possible fashion. With all these technologies and opportunities, of course, we do face challenges. And these challenges is the areas where we need to focus in on so that we can thrive in the benefits that the technologies offer. Now, I'm not here to sell you just the perfect solution. The truth is, as I mentioned, we have significant challenges. From research, it shows that 23% of construction professionals are still citing that the technology is a cost barrier that is of primary importance. We do have interoperability issues as well, data standardization complexities. And as we embrace these technologies, we must also look at the other several challenges that comes into play. Data security and the ownership of the data, cybersecurity threats that pose significant risk to sensitive project information, the resistance from a cultural perspective. There's often reluctance within our industry to challenge or rather to change established practices. The upskilling of workforces. As we integrate these advanced technologies, there's an urgent need to continuous upskilling of our professionals in every single field that we are faced in. We need a phased technology approach. We need to develop the strategic skills, as I also mentioned. And of course, there is cross-industry knowledge transfer that's needed. We cannot, in isolation, work within our specific sectors. We have to work in collaboration. And of course, the aspect of the ICT and innovations that come in is a new dimension which we need to also look into over and above our standard engineering skills and knowledge opportunities that we look at. We look at what the future trends hold for places like Africa and South Africa in particular. Looking ahead, the integration of artificial intelligence with digital twins does promise enhanced predictive capabilities that can revolutionize project management. We anticipate potential efficiency gains of between 40 to 60%, cost reductions of 20 to 35%, and even the ability to mitigate carbon emissions by up to 25% through smart digital technologies. As we forge this path forward, it is crucial that we embrace these innovations, not merely as tools rather, but as catalysts for change that will redefine our industry standards. We have convergence of technologies. As I mentioned, we have to work between the traditional sectors that we are used to. There's edge computing opportunities in the construction industry, advanced machine learning models within the project management industry. There's blockchain technologies for secure data management and the management of the contracts itself. And there's, of course, strategic technology adoption opportunities, developing internal digital transformation roadmaps, creating cross-functional innovation teams, and of course, the investment of continuous learning programs. And of course, our built environment has a dramatic impact in terms of the economic and ethical considerations that the new technologies bring, in particular artificial intelligence. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, says that the AI technologies will have an impact of nearly 40% of all jobs. And it's imperative that we identify these risk areas as well as opportunity areas so that we can benefit from them. The economic landscape is undergoing a seismic shift. For example, our personal experiences with the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated digital transformation at an unprecedented pace, including here in South Africa. We are not just talking about technological change. We are discussing a complete reimagining of work, productivity, and economic potential. We cannot do this without taking the ethical considerations into consideration. With great power comes great responsibility. And as we embrace AI, we must prioritize transparency in what we do, in the data we use, the technologies that we use. We must have fairness amongst all the various stakeholders within society that our built environment technologies impact. We must be accountable for the development of these solutions and the use of the information that we use to develop this solution. And of course, we have to account for the protection of private information. It's imperative that we really focus in on that. And even from a policy perspective, and within the city of Johannesburg, we're still busy developing policy in this regard. But an example of proactive policy impediment is that of the United States, where they've already issued a blueprint in terms of an AI Bill of Rights, where AI is impacting on the rights of the citizens of the country. So we are not just technological innovators. We are ethical guardians of this transformative technology. When we look at the long-term or the economic outlooks as well, we got to take into consideration the strategic recommendations that I could put through with regards to the current research that I've looked in. And I've mentioned some of these in my previous slides, is that we need to invest in digital skills training. We have to develop clear technology strategies. We've got to foster a collaborative culture. And I'm very happy that CESA, as I already mentioned, that in order for us to move forward, we have to take a collaborative approach. We've got to start with some pilot projects, and key focus areas has to be that of data security, interoperability, and innovative mindsets. And I do know with the technologies that's available within BIM environment, there's a lot of challenges in terms of specific technologies and platforms wanting to be just closed. But there's a industry move towards having a open a platform in terms of being able to collaborate between the various tools and not being tied in and locked in into a specific technology or platform. Just before I come into my closing slide, I would like to just share a 4-minute video with the audience so that you can get a practical feel for the things that I've been talking about. And in closing, I urge each of you to consider this. Our industry doesn't just need a digital transformation, we really need a digital revolution. This is an opportunity for us to augment our incredible skills with advanced technologies that empower us to build better, innovate more effectively, and solve complex problems. Let us embrace these innovations not just as tools, but as catalysts for change that will shape the future of our industry. Together, we can unlock new potentials that will benefit not only our projects, but also the communities that we serve. Are you ready to be part of the revolution? Together, let's navigate this exciting journey ahead. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Divesh, for that enlightening presentation. Just a quick overview of just a key point that I picked up from Divesh's presentation that he touched on was the BMI, the Building Information Modeling. So, as a young structural engineer, BMI enables us structural engineers to create detailed 3D models of buildings, which allows us a better understanding and communication of structural systems. So, that was one of the key points that I picked up in my own field, and that was very enlightening. Thank you, Divesh. Please feel free to use the chat box for any questions throughout this webinar. Just pop your questions. If you have any questions throughout, just pop it in. And at the end of the session, we're going to be having a question and answer session. Thank you. I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay. So next we have Prudence Madibe who will present on technology and innovation at ESCOM navigating through the energy transition. So Prudence Madibe is a professional registered electrical engineer with 23 years of work experience and service to ESCOM. She is the General Manager, Research, Testing, and Development. In this role, she is accountable for the provision of strategic direction and leadership through innovation research, advice on technical direction analysis and implementation of operational enhancement opportunities for existing assets, and development of technical skills in ESCOM. Prudence is also the Senior Vice President of the South African Institution of Electrical Engineers, where she also serves as the chair for the Governance Committee. Prudence is also a member of EXA Council, where she chairs the Registration Committee. Prudence holds a BSc Electronic Engineering, PGD Business Management, GDE Industry Engineering, and Masters in Engineering Management. So over to you, Prudence.
Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to be part of the panel discussion today. I will share my presentation. Thank you. If I can just have confirmation that you can see my slides.
Yes, I can.
Thank
just
you.
2 minutes for.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you,
All good to
everyone.
go.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I thought it would be important that I start by just introducing what ESCOM RTND is and where we fit into the structure of ESCOM, so that you can then be able to see where we fit and our mandate within ESCOM. Can I just make sure that I didn't change the screen setting? Thank you. So within ESCOM, our mandate is to provide the energy research, development, and evaluation of technologies and products. And with this, we also have specialized testing and analytical testing services and specialized consulting, and also training services that we offer on behalf of ESCOM, and we extend some of this to the wider industry, especially within the government entities. So our purpose is to conduct energy research and development and evaluations and offer specialized testing. So if I look into the ESCOM strategies, our focus would be to look into technologies that reduce the environmental impact and enhance Eskom's capabilities on technology, and also to provide a platform where we can then look into pilot and proven technologies that we pilot into the business to prove them before we implement. And as a driver through the transition, we're looking into the clean and green innovation. So how we looked into this is that, yes, if you look into the current energy mix, we have to be transitioning and moving away from what we have as 47,000 megawatts at the moment, and majority of those being on the coal side, but we are moving towards transitioning. But with that also comes that we need to do a lot of research in terms of what's applicable and how we can also make it easier for the organization to transition. And again, if you look into how the industry has been evolving towards a decentralized and decarbonized and democratized state, we are looking at a generation business that's been now having to deal with the IPPs and our conventional generation getting smaller as well, and the greener side increasing their presence within the generation space. But so does the transmission challenges and our need to then also keep up as we allow for penetration of other new technologies that are coming into the system. And we're getting into the distribution space as well, that is more decentralized as well, and customers having more say in terms of how we're providing electricity to them and what electricity they want to use and when they want to use it, and getting smarter as well. So with those as well comes that we need to be looking into how we do our business. So from a research perspective, we have been in the past years focusing more towards 60% of our effort, looking into the operational recoveries type of technologies to support the business, as you've seen with the challenges that we've had on the technical performance of some of our stations. But still doing that, we needed to look into the strategic transformation as well to say, how do we then transition? And that's the role where we play a part in transitioning and introducing those transitioning technologies within the business. But I'm glad I'm also following after the presentation that I'd shown on AI applications. And that's another area that we look into to say, as technology is evolving, then which part of our business and operation do we improve using the available technologies and moving into those lines. But if I look into the current technologies and what type of work we look at, we have been working on what we call a clean coal research, which is more towards saying, how do we use coal in a more responsible way and trying to make it more environmentally friendly by ensuring that we put some of the technologies on top to help us elevate our emissions. So some of the things we're looking at, which has got AI application, is in terms of how do we do coal stockpiling and modeling those to help us focus on our forecasting and planning and understanding the variables driving the behavior and winning capabilities when it comes to our stockpile changes. We've been looking into different ways of improving our emissions and what type of FFP bags do we use to reduce our operational costs and also impact positively on our EAF. We are now looking into repurposing some of our station, but beyond just looking at battery for storage, what are other long duration energy storage technologies are out there that we can implement, and in some cases use them to longer support our stations instead of just looking into the average of the 4 hours battery storage that's always there. Another technologies that we're looking at is with the usage of high fuel usage in our power stations, how do we then reduce the fuel usage? And that is introducing into technologies such as the low fuel igniters that will help us in terms of the light up fuel oil that we use and how much fuel that we use supporting our operation. One of the bigger things that have been in the past 3 years been talked about within our industry is looking into carbon capture utilization and the storage capabilities. And that also saying, how do we from this create other industries, especially when we look into the stations where we're operating with the higher emissions, how do you capture those, but not just store the CO2, but what byproducts can we then make from this? For example, in some other stations, they look into producing fertilizer, and if we can create a market for fertilizer and export some of those, then it will turn out the usage of our byproduct into a better utilization that helps the country as well. We have been focusing a lot in terms of also, we have a lot of ash dumps seeing around our station. What can we do to reduce those, and also the cost of just maintaining those and the land usage of those? So we have been looking into a lot of ash beneficiation type of projects, and we are now have launched one of our roads at the Kusile Power Station, which was built primarily being a high ash content road that also reduces the cement usage on the building of our roads, and that significantly reduces our cost as well, and also would help us in reducing our stock ash, coal ash in the stockyard. High content ash bricks as well that we are evaluating for buildings and looking into low cost housing and how we can then use this in those, and also for paving as well. We've also been looked into mine backfilling, using also our to fill in with mine voids with the ash. Another technology we've been looking at is ash-based pole and short concrete material for the development of structures, like our for our power line poles that we can support using this. And also another research that we're looking into is within this, what are the rare earth elements that we can find in this that we can turn into other usable minerals and create other industries to create circular economy. When it comes into the others that are more onto the transitioning part as well, we have in the past had looked into UCG, which is the underground coal gasification project that we are now re-looking into, but as one of our future projects that we'll be working on, and we're partnering with India with the target of having that implemented by 2030. We are investigating the possibility also of coal to small modular reactors. I've spoken about the coal modeling, and we are looking into green hydrogen facility with a pilot that we will be building into our facility from next year to see how we can build green hydrogen facilities into our power stations as well. We are also trying to use a lot of AI in terms of the water information systems and managing of those. We have implemented on the transmission side a pilot project that we were using a remote piloted aircraft system that was based on drones to monitor the conditions of our line and helps with the power line inspections. And now moving into the second phase of getting robots onto our line for maintenance, and that can also reduce the risk factor of our lifeline maintenance. Asset utilization, we are using a lot of tools in terms of how do we implement curtailment, especially when we have a lot of wind in our system sometimes, and we want to see how we can then manage the grid, as most of you would be aware that we have shortage of lines. How do we make sure that we can maximize the utilization of our grid by unlocking about 3,500 megawatts of those using AI technologies that we built into our operating system for that. We also have grid forming inverters that we've been investigating, and an impact of inertia on the system as we introduce renewable and into the network as well. We are also upgrading our HV DC facilities, and South Africa is one. We are not just South Africa, but Eskom being one of those that are leading on the 750 kV lines, and running and maintaining of those. That's a service that we provide also outside of our country. On the distribution side, we've been focusing more on technologies around the e-mobility, and how do we track the impact of demand response on the network from interventions that would help us see value add on both the customers and the utility side, as we introduce more smart meters and managing of our customers, and also using our data centers, creating our data centers and hosting capacity that we have with the data that we have for managing our network, as data is becoming one of those key resources to have. Other things that we're looking at as well is on the small scale embedded generation, and refining the control and supervisory of those, especially as we are introducing control at the distribution and customer level. And also the dynamic volt amp reactive VARs on the systems as well. So that is mostly in terms of, I know I've gone through high level too quickly in terms of what we are looking at, but I wanted to give you an idea that there's a lot of technologies that we're looking at, and a lot of innovation that's happening beyond what you see or hear on the news in terms of the work that's been done in the research space. Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence, for that very informative presentation. Before we move on, just a reminder, if you have any questions, just please pop it into the chat box, the question and answer box, and at the end of the session, we are going to be having a question and answer session. So our final speaker for today, our final speaker for today is Richard Matchett, who will present on demystifying BMI throughout the project and asset cycle. Richard Matchett is a professional engineer with 25 years of experience in the built environment in South Africa, Greater Africa, and the Middle East. Richard is the digital lead at Zotari, responsible for the digital strategy to implement modern engineering practices during the ever-changing times we live in. He believes that the effective use of technology, information systems, and the implementation of better information management in the built environments are fundamental enablers of achieving smart infrastructure and optimal facilities and infrastructure operations. He holds a bachelor degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in construction management. He is currently enrolled in a PhD at the Stellenbosch University focused on development of digital twins for road infrastructure. Richard, so it's over to you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, folks. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and talking about a subject that I am particularly passionate about, which is the digital transformation of our industry. Olivia, can you see the screen all right?
Yes, you're all good to go, Richard? All good to go?
Great, thanks. So the topic of the talk is demystifying BIM or BIM throughout the project and asset cycle. And we're going to cover a lot of ground today. So I invite you to take a big slug of your coffee and follow along with me. So as a consulting firm that's been around for quite a while, one often might wonder, so what's the interest in digital engineering and BIM, especially considering we've been doing what we've been doing for a long time. Why fix it if it's not broken, right? And we've done a lot around the continent and been involved in a lot of projects. What has changed, and why are we changing a winning recipe that we've implemented over many, many years? Well, those many, many years have really been a process of change, going from when I started working on drawing boards and doing calculations by hand and using the tools of the trade back in the 90s, mainly paper-based, mainly segregated by distance and challenges of logistics, but still delivering great infrastructure. But generally working in an uncoordinated fashion if we look back from today's perspective. And the opportunities afforded by the computer age, we embraced as a company and we said, look, this is fantastic. We can draw things faster. We can use spreadsheets to do calculations instead of punch cards, and that was a major change. But essentially, automating our processes produced a lot of paper. And if any of us have taken a good look at our own paperwork at home or in the office, paper is very limiting. And as technology started advancing, we wanted to embrace the opportunities afforded by the digital age. And so as we have transformed and as we have changed our focus from just producing drawings for construction and specifications alone, we really are now focusing on creating information, and that is our primary priority. And so I'm going to take you on a journey of what this means in our space as consulting engineers, and I hope that you will resonate with many of these things. So many of the changes that we're experiencing are driven by technologies that are coming into the market with new global goals and requirements in terms of ESG. We've heard a lot about artificial intelligence, but other things like 5G connectivity, which our continent is particularly good at implementing, cloud storage, the ability to measure things remotely and operate things remotely, are opening up opportunities to do things better. The practical implications on practices like ours are the change in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So on the left-hand side, you can see, the relative effort of what we spend our time doing historically has been producing documents, and that is the engineer's output. The documents are books of drawings, specifications, reports, what have you, and those documents are then used for construction or management processes, etc. But what we're seeing is that over time, we're anticipating the effort spent on generating documents, as demonstrated very nicely in the opening remarks, will be a lot less effort, whereas we need to be spending a lot more effort and attention span developing good data. Because all of that generative AI that we've been talking about depends on good information. And with bad information, AI tends to give very bad results. So this process of change has been going on for some time. And we have to keep reminding ourselves that time is passing rapidly. Time is of the essence. And there is no time like the present to really jump onto this process of change in adopting new ways of working. When we talk in digital terms, we're talking about this progression of value, of data, information, knowledge, and insights. And what the transformation of our industry means is we are responsible now to generate and create better data, better information, which drives more value. And the way that what we do drives value for the stakeholders that we work with is really looking at their business processes and their asset life cycles. You see, what we normally produce at the bottom there is input data into a much bigger system or ecosystem of processes. So whether it's design or reality capture, capture of existing conditions, or connecting devices to collect data, all of that really feeds into a much broader system of combining information. And this is where the world of enterprise systems comes in, the world of digital twins in future, We're still very much in the infancy of that technology in the built environment. And the combination of those information and knowledge system really drives the insights and the ability to improve decision-making and operations. And that is where value lies for the organizations that own the assets that we work in. So BIM is an acronym that many people get frustrated by because it's used very loosely. Originally, it stood for Building Information Modeling. Amongst civil engineers, that became very unpopular because a roads engineer like myself, we don't do buildings. So why do we call it Building Information Modeling? So recently, internationally, there's a new way of understanding the term, which is better information management. And in our opinion, this really makes a lot of sense, and managing information in all of its useful formats. So in South Africa, we are very pleased that the ISO 19650 standard has been adopted as a South African national standard. And this standard is really an endpoint to a number of different standards that are important for any organization in the built environment. Starting with the 9000 series, which really talks about quality and how an operation is conducted. It drills down into asset management, which for our asset intensive organizations, the South African government, property owners, education institutions, 55,000 is very important because it gives the guidelines on how those assets need to be managed, as well as 21,500, which talks about project management, which oversees the project delivery. But then inside of that context comes this new standard, the 19650 standard, which talks about how the information that is required to drive quality, to drive asset management, where does that information come from? And what is the best way to reliably create that information? So that standard, which is now a SAN standard, really talks about delivering the right information to the right people at the appropriate and best time. And as we as organizations and as CESA, as we as consultants start embracing this way of working, we are going to be enabled to produce much greater value to our clients and to the society that we serve. In a nutshell, what the standard says is, on any project, make sure you start by understanding what information needs to be produced. So we're always going to produce some kind of geometric information to show where and what needs to be built. We're always going to produce specifications and bills of quantities. But what about the additional information which historically has been neglected about how to operate that building effectively or that road optimally? How does that asset information also find its way into the early stages of a project? And once that information requirement is established, is then to follow the necessary processes to ensure that the project delivers not just a pile of paper, but information that can be driven through the entire life cycle. So in a project cycle, it obviously goes through a number of different stages, which we are all very familiar with. And through those different project stages, we see two distinct groups of people. We see the one group of people that's involved with the capital expenditure part of the project, getting something built. And then we see a transition into a second and different group of people involved with the operations. And those people are tasked with a very difficult task. They need to deliver value from that asset or facility or equipment. And they are charged with the responsibility to make sure that the return on investment is realized. Oftentimes, though, they receive second-rate information. In the case of a large building or hotel, for example, it's not uncommon for it to take up to a year to 18 months for the operational team to fully understand the facility that they've taken over. For large distributed assets, you can imagine that becomes harder and harder. Now, some institutions in South Africa and in our industry have already embraced asset management fully. And so some of these concepts would be already integrated into their ways of working. But for many parts of our industry, this is not the case. And this is why there's such a strong drive in South Africa to say, how do we bridge this gap between the design and construction and then the handover of meaningful information into the operational stage? And this is really where BIM comes in. So I want to take you on a quick summary of what that standard actually says. And interestingly, you'll see that the standard is not really about technology. It's not about templates and formats. It's about a process of reaching the right outcome with regards to information. So any project's got a number of key stakeholders, and I'm just putting these 7 personas up for the sake of this conversation. And this team of people that represents the stakeholders, the client organization, the contractor, the consultant, project managers, they need to work together collaboratively to produce a good project. So when we start looking at a construction project with the associated design processes and commissioning processes, the question you got to ask yourself is, well, what is this construction all about? Is it just around creating something? Is it just about the CapEx phase? Or are we keenly aware that that project is really around operations? That's the reason it exists. Projects are not just about CapEx, but they're really around enabling value in the long term. So how does the SAN standard help us to achieve value in the long term? The first thing it does is it acknowledges that the operation is really informed by how the people who are experts in operation can define what is needed for operation, and to do that right at the beginning of the project. And so the ISO standard, or the SAN standard, says start consulting before you even appoint your professional team. Make sure that the asset managers and the key stakeholders are given an opportunity to define some key input requirements. Essentially, the principle is let's start implementing this idea of lessons learned and knowledge management. Let's start actively managing that process and bringing that into our project delivery. It talks about a couple of specific information requirements. One of them is called the organizational information requirements. And that's the information that the organization is going to need to manage itself effectively. Essentially, this is almost working backwards from saying, what reports do I need in order to be compliant? What decision-making tools do I need to feed with information to be able to navigate the operational phase effectively? The second set of information is something called asset information requirements. And so maybe a simple example of this is to say, if I'm going to be taking this new asset and incorporating it into my asset register, what information do I need to be able to complete my asset register? But more than that, what information do I need to fit into my computer-aided asset management system or my facilities management system? And the opportunity at the beginning is to really define what information needs to come out to make that commencement of operations as smooth as possible. Oftentimes, the project managers get involved at this stage to assist with the development of these standards and to make sure that the project requirements are then identified and put in front of the tendering team, when the professional team and the contractor later on tender for the work, that those requirements are already known and incorporated into the project plans. So when we do go over into project execution, those information requirements are known and are then followed by the project managers, the professional team, and the contractor as they then set about the process of designing and getting the construction done. An important principle that the SAN standard talks about is working in a common data environment. And this is one of the most powerful things that technology has unlocked for us in the industry, is the ability to work in a platform where everyone can collaborate and contribute to the same project. And that, it's almost like multiplayer engineering. That process of working together is what's driving efficiencies in the international market and what we're starting to see coming through in the South African markets as well. Our ability to not just work sequentially, but rather work collaboratively and make sure that our designs are developed effectively. Once that CapEx phase is completed, we reach obviously the handover point where the building needs to be commissioned and handed over into operations. What the process of better information management is now asking for is to say, we don't just hand over the capital infrastructure, we actually hand over the information model as well, because that information model needs to find its way into the asset information model. In other words, the project information needs to fit into the organization's larger information set. And so the role of the asset manager is then to have a look at what does that information look like? Does it meet those requirements? Is it acceptable? And that becomes a hold point. And in fact, if that information is not up to scratch, it can be rejected and sent back, and the professional team and the contractor need to go back and fix what they didn't do right. And that becomes a requirement if it was put in the contract correctly. So that's quite a mouthful. But what the SAN standard does is it gives us a sequential list of things that we need to do. We need to start off by understanding what that information requirements is, and there's certain people involved with that. We then need to understand what the project specification is going to look like, so that when we procure the engineering services, those engineers are able to make sure that they cater for the production of information in their design process planning, their pricing, and their workflow management. The project execution and the handover all need to be done so that that information is created at the same time as the design and construction. And then ultimately that information needs to find its way back into the operational system. So a lot of us on the call are in the consulting engineering space. And so this portion in the middle is really specifically applicable to us. The portions at the top are very much applicable to the client organizations, and I'm glad to see that there are a few clients on the call. This portion over here is really in the consulting, engineering, and design space. And then this piece at the bottom here really speaks to our asset management colleagues as they use that information in operations. So let's take a quick overview then of what we're trying to do, is to say, let's take our attention to detail in the design phase and expand our view so that we understand what is required ultimately to get the right information to the right people at the right time. Imagine if we were able to deliver all the information that is required for a project to operate optimally. What happens if that information drove better operations so that decisions were not just gut feel, but based on insights, and that became the new normal? That is the transition that we want to start seeing in our industry. We want to see information go from this to structured digital information that can be incorporated into systems and into processes for management. We want to see designs go from working sequentially to being interactive, where design teams work collaboratively off a common base, where the different disciplines involved in a project are able to see each other's work together and collaboratively, and make sure that that design is coordinated. Put that design together, put all the pieces in one picture, make sure it fits, have a look at where there are issues, proactively manage those issues before we get to construction. So that as we go through iterations, we're able to make sure we continuously add value until the design is complete and we can commission the asset. And when we do so, to make sure that that information is not just the drawings that we hand over, but is a model that is connected with data that can be referenced into operational systems, as well as descriptive and reference information about the assets that were created. By doing so, we will take all the different types of assets in our portfolio as a country and start bringing it into systems like digital twin systems, where we can have a much better overview of how those assets are supposed to be performing, and that we're able to track them with regards to maximizing the value that our tax money is delivering for society. So where do we start? Because it's quite a big thing to embark on this journey, and speaking from experience at Tatari, we've had to really dig deep to get this right. And looking back, it's really revolved around these 4 areas: policy, people, processes and standards, and technologies. And in each of these areas, there are a couple of areas that we have needed to focus on, and we'll go through those quickly. So policy is incredibly important because policy drives change and it drives the orientation of the organization. And so by having digital engineering, digital transformation, innovation, the use of technology, the implementation of BIM To have that as part of your defined goals and objectives, to have it documented, to give mandates to the people who need to perform certain roles, to address compliance and make sure that there's internal governance and budget allocated for the change. Those are enabling things that have to be in place if you're going to make a success of this, and that's policy. What we did was we started this journey a couple of years ago and said it is going to be our key objective that drives our digital transformation. We have a policy that was signed a few years ago, and that led to our ability to organize ourselves around achieving certification. If we can do it, so can you. What that meant was that the strategy needed to be elevated to board level. And so this wasn't something that we just talked about on the shop floor, but it was a priority that was driven from the top through our strategy. Next, we have people, and we really like this quote from Peter Drucker, that culture eats strategy for breakfast, because you can have the best policy in the world, but if you're not working with the people to make sure that there's the right leadership commitment, that roles and responsibilities are assigned, people are trained, given the opportunity to develop, and that change management is not implemented, you're going to have a challenge. Starting with the project managers and understanding how their world changes, through the engineers and looking at the way that their jobs are changing with the tools they use and what they produce. And then some new roles that are coming into the business around the specific tasks in producing information. Those were very important steps in enabling us to start developing the culture around digital project delivery and using BIM with a much better level of maturity. Processes and standards. The best tech and the best people in the world fall flat unless you've understood how you do business. And so at a very, very high level, we've had a look at how we go through a project lifecycle from beginning to end, from winning a work on the far left to delivering a digital twin to clients that are desirous of their own digital transformation. What does that look like, and how do the different processes intersect? And then at a very detailed level, to look at the individual design and project management processes down to task-based level. How do we do things? What software do we use? Where do we store the information? How do we record our plans? How do we manage our collaboration? Those were things that we needed to spend very deliberate time doing with the task team that oversaw that. And this has enabled us to understand things with our business partners and our clients' perspective as well, to understand information management and how information can drive value, even in a place that has a lot of complexity, like the picture demonstrates. And then lastly, technology. I think all of us these days have a huge amount of technology that we use and manage, and sometimes that technology can be overwhelming. So putting attention into understanding what the software needs are, as opposed to just the nice to haves, to do the investments into the right software and hardware, understand data management systems, integrating those tools into those workflows that we spoke about, and then remaining updated with what is happening in the world. Those are very, very important steps in making sense. And so looking at people, policy, processes, and technology, and those are some of the key steps to make the change happen. But even with all of those things in place, change is hard. It's incredibly hard. And oftentimes, even on a daily basis, yesterday, I was having conversations with people who said, yeah, but we've always done it this way. And that is an obstacle that comes out of insecurity sometimes, in hesitation, people being overwhelmed and just very busy, don't have the headspace for change. And that's normal. And I think us who are driving change need to be patient and persistent, to keep repeating the message, to keep driving the change. And collectively, just like these little tugboats are going to help ultimately maneuver this huge, big oil tanker, collectively we'll be able to bring that change about. So lastly, let's look at a couple of implications for the employers. So those of us on the call who are involved from the owner's perspective. There are a couple of steps that you will get the handouts afterwards, but having a look at what that BIM process is going to deliver in your organization, and understanding the strategic value that it can create. Looking at developing policies, governance and leadership, making sure you have the right people as well. You can't just have a policy without in-house skills to implement and oversee the projects. Developing your own standards and specifications, and making sure that those information requirements are documented and can be put into the tender packs when you tender for work. Making sure that you invest in the in-house technology and not depending on others to handle the technology for you. That's often a dead end if you do that. But investing in-house really ensures the longevity of your strategy. And then integrating that process of information management into your asset management life cycles and making sure that you complete that cycle on your projects. If we look at project delivery, these are some very practical ways. So this is over and above the policy, people, process, and technology, but these are some things at the grassroots level. On projects, we need to work in common data environments, not fragmented, everyone doing their own thing, storing their information on their local drives and OneDrive and Dropbox and who knows where, but working in an organized place. Making sure that we use that technology to enable us to collaborate. We've got to start moving as an industry away from sequential design processes. It takes a lot of time, it introduces errors, and it's no longer good enough. We've really got to start looking at collaborative work. We have to follow information management processes. And this is not just doc control. This is around managing that information from the beginning all the way through to delivery, and make sure that the quality of that information is upheld through the entire project process. Making sure we drive information rather than just drawings. And that's a big mindshift change. Let's take modeling in 3D using a software like Revit. If we start using Revit just as a tool to draw things and make them look nice, we're missing the point. But if we use that technology to create data systems and sets of information that can be handed over, then we're starting to get it right. Managing interfaces, looking at clash detection, making sure we combine those models regularly to make sure things fit, even between companies, to make sure we work in a way that we can make sure things fit before we get to construction. And then making sure that as we exchange information within our teams, we do so in a manner that fosters collaboration. So in closing, this whole talk has been around one of the key aspects of digital transformation, but it is a collaborative journey. And so as the consulting engineering fraternity, we need to understand that we're learning, our clients are learning, and we're all going to be needing to compare notes as we go along and figure this out. South Africa has an incredible opportunity and a unique opportunity to learn from what the rest of the world is doing. And like we've done so many times, to leapfrog and start taking the lead in how we do digital project delivery in future. And so I really do invite you to think about these things and see how you can contribute towards this change. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard, for that very insightful presentation on better information management. I was referring to it as building information modeling, so I learned something new today. Thank you so much. Now we move on to our question and answer session. So we will be taking a couple voice questions, and we're opening up the floor to some voice questions to everyone. So I think all our speakers, if you can please put your cameras on. And yeah, so we're going to open up the floor to some questions right now. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Olivia. Maybe we can try to allow Portia to comment or to ask. Let's see if it works.
Okay, Portia, you can unmute. Okay, Portia, are you speaking? Okay, Portia, we can't hear you on the side.
I see Portia still on mute.
Yeah. Okay, Portia, you still on mute?
Okay, it's fine. Let's move ahead and see if there is someone with a question. There were a few questions on the Q&A box. You can check there.
Okay, I'm just checking. Okay. Okay, so there's one to Prudence. How long would it take Eskom to have renewable energy as the major source of energy in South Africa, and how will that impact the base load factor of the transmission lines? Prudence?
Thank you. I think to answer you, because it's not, the reason we call it a transition is because it happens over time. So let me take you through just this one slide that can give you an overview. So if you look at where we are now, and from the year 2025, and these are the financial years, not the calendar years. So as you are moving through, you'll see the bar of the green is raising. Into introducing renewable, we've got a mixture of hydro and pump storage, we've got gas, we've got nuclear, and the remaining will always be the coal fleet capacity, because we have built new power stations that have a longer life, like your Medupi will run to the 2070s. So the important thing is we're talking about new clean energy, and hence a lot of research that we're focusing on the carbon capture and reduction of our emissions, so that with the remaining fleet that's there, we'll always have a reduction in the emissions. So that's your answer in terms of how, and as we move from the 2040s up, that green portion will always be increasing. I hope that helps. So in terms of that as well, we are doing this, allowing also for the transmission line build program that they have on the TDP, that shows how long it will take for them to build the 14,000 plus line that are required as well. So it's a transition. It will take a number of years to get there. I hope that helps get in the picture. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Prudence, for that. I'm just going to check if anyone else has any more questions. If any hands are raised for questions.
I
Okay.
think our chairperson, Dr. Mpefu, might have some comment or engagement a bit with our guest speakers.
Okay, Dr. Gift, you can go.
Well, I was hoping that we would first deal with the questions, but in the absence of any, I think mine was just to really extend my gratitude to our esteemed speakers. I think all of them have shared some very, very great insights with us, and we are grateful for that as we continue to build a knowledge base within CESA, and hopefully not only in CESA, we want this information to spread, out there, and we make sure that by doing that, we capacitating the sector so that we are all ready for the future that we are about to experience. As Richard mentioned, that, we really need to figure this thing out together, because none of us has all the answers. So I think he made a very, very good point. And it's always good to understand the implications of all of this in a specific discipline. Like Prudence, I think, attempted to give us an indication of how as Eskom they interpret the implications of artificial intelligence and all these technologies in that particular environment. And I think it was very interesting to see that there is some serious work going on, because this really needs to be factored into the whole system so that we are not caught with our pants down. But I think most importantly, Divesh mentioned something very important for me. We talk about all these technologies, but cybersecurity is a real threat. I think he mentioned the issue of cybersecurity as something that we really need to take seriously as we incorporate these new digital tools or digital ways of doing things. I mean, in my presentation, I demonstrated that the presentation was purely generated by AI. So imagine if one were to send a bug into a machine, and I ask that bug to generate whatever, information and extract whatever information from Eskom's machine and share it with the public. And those threats are real. So we really need to be cognizant of those things and make sure that as we incorporate these technologies, we also think about security very, very carefully. And what we have also noticed is that, as CESA, the majority of our member firms are SMMEs. And we would like to caution, of course, not only SMMEs, even the large companies, to be very, very careful in their technology strategy, because not all the technologies that are available out there are relevant. So make sure that you do a due diligence and your technology selection criteria really responds to your business. Because we have seen cases where people make serious investments in these technologies only to find that they don't really give the results that were expected. And that becomes a waste of resources and waste of energy. So I think we are very, very excited as CESA, and we would like to continue to engage with our speakers as well as those who are in the audience. This is not the first and the last time, and I'm really grateful that we were able to finish off the year, on a high note like this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gift. Thank you so much. I see we have one question in the chat box here. I think this can be directed to all the speakers and someone can answer. So it says, seeing that BMI is opening doors for new professions that never existed before, how are consulting companies maneuvering through the training and need for such person in companies? So
I can take that one. What it means is we need to make sure that we've actually got training programs for our staff. So practically that means having in-house training, having knowledge shares, providing opportunities for people to use online learning systems. And then fortunately in South Africa, there are a number of different training providers as well who can assist with a lot of that hands-on learning. But I think what's important to also think about is we're not needing to teach people computer programming. We need to teach people a way of working. And so the nature of training that we most often find can be done in an afternoon or two, to understand how a workflow works, how to save information differently, how to use a naming convention. And I hope that my presentation demonstrated that really what BIM is about is managing the information in a different way. And so I think the maneuvering that we need to do is really understanding what needs to be learned in the first place.
okay. Thank you, Richard. Divesh, do you would like to add anything more on that? You touched on BMI.
Yes, thank you, Olivia. What I wanted to add was that over and above all, or really a push towards encouraging SMMEs in particular to actually transition towards and to look for training opportunities is that a lot of the international markets, and I've come across at least one major project which local government and one of the big property management companies are deploying, is using expertise coming from the UK and as well as expertise coming from the USA. So it's imperative that we start training and exposing ourselves so that when bigger companies do come into fore, and they are already doing so, we can actually compete, because once you've established yourself in this transformed built environment using digital technologies, you will be able to offer a service which is unsurpassed by traditional methods that you would follow. As Richard as well was highlighting, they are sitting at a very competitive advantage over other players in the market space because they have transitioned towards the digital space in terms of offering their services. So in terms of training, I do know that UJ offers through a organization which is jointly well funded or run by the CBE called Karimbi, and then they do focus in on that digital transformation for area in terms of BIM utilization, digital twinning utilization, and of course they do a lot of research work. So even when you're doing the training in a formal basis, you do get exposure to other lessons learned, do's and don'ts, much the same as what Richard had shared. So I just wanted to add that aspect. There's a major risk for Africa, which we are sitting on an opportunity where SMMEs in particular can actually get involved in that space from the onset. The other aspect that I wanted to also raise is that a lot of the technologies that is currently being utilized is by big multinational companies, and they obviously tie you into those platforms once you get, like Richard mentioned, Rivet, Bentley systems, there's AutoCAD systems and the like. We do need, and there's opportunity for South Africa in particular to develop some in-house localized technology, open policy-based technology, where we can also then take care of the governance of the data that our systems are using and have a localized environment which we can then move forward in terms of the digital transformation. So that is also areas which the academic institutions as well as the other built environment councils are actually looking at. So it's also something as an opportunity for those who get involved in that space where we've merged the built environment with a largely seen ICT technology environment. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you so much, Divyesh. I don't see any more questions in our chat box. Godfrey, do I need to ask if anybody else has any questions, or are we closing?
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. I think we've come to an end. So the video will be available on CTV and also presentations. We will post them on the CESA website under presentations. I think you can close. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining and participating in today's webinar. I hope you found this session valuable and insightful, and we look forward to seeing you in our next event, hopefully. And I think you can enjoy the rest of your day. Okay, bye everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.